This is No Spin Live, and do we have a show for you today? We're going to talk about Australia with new regulations on breast implants, and Instagram now blocking weight loss ads to users under 18. And we've got three incredible international experts to share their insights with you. And we've got Dr. Christine Hamori from Boston, Massachusetts, Dr. Rich Restifo from New Haven, Connecticut, and last but not least, Dr. Jason Posner from Boca Raton, Florida. A lot of stuff going on, but let's get into, this is another international deal in Australia. The TGA, which is the counterpart to the FDA, just made some new regulations kind of taking certain textured breast implants out of circulation for 6 months to do some research and collect further data. So Jason, what's your take on this?
Well, I think you really can't compare Australia to the U.S. because they have far more different implants approved than we do. In the U.S., the most highly textured of the implants, the Allergan BioCells, were the ones that were recalled. But, in Australia, they have polyurethane and other implants that are even more highly textured. And it turns out that the rate of ALCL in some of those more highly textured implants is higher than the BioCell implants. So I think their regulatory body has probably done a smart thing in removing temporarily some of the more textured implants from that market and try to assess which ones are safe and which ones are not safe. I think that if you're looking at the data and there is super high risk in one particular implant, we have a lot of options now with smooth implants and less highly textured implants. So probably good move on their part.
Yes, I agree. I'm just a little afraid of how the American consumer is going to perceive that stance by Australia, another large, place where a lot of plastic surgery is done, and now they're hearing, they're taking, quote, all their implants off. And maybe that's going to alert patients here, not understanding that it's very rare. And like Jason said, we don't have those type of implants here.
Yeah, that's something we probably ought to talk about. I mean, Rich, that the truth is that I think it's a bad idea to just blame everything on the implant because we know there's more things involved. So do you want to make any comments with regard to any of that?
Well, I agree with what Jason said. I think it's a good idea to assure the safety of these devices. I mean, and I think as a society, we need to be behind the safety first mantra. Personally, I don't see the need for, any textured implants. I mean, I've hated textured implants my entire career, and ALCL is just one more reason to hate them. Do we really need textured implants?
Well, I mean, I think if you look at the thing internationally, it's certainly a much bigger issue for international surgeons because we're in the United States, we're 98% smooth implants, and internationally they're 99% textured. I honestly think that the biggest misnomer is that these implants are causing the problem, and all you have to do is look at the epidemiology and see that places that use a lot of textured implants don't have any cases or the case clusters. And so it's more, the texture is a component because it has surface area, it has the ability to have more bacteria get on those implants, cause more chronic inflammation. So it's more complicated than just the implant. So I don't disagree with you guys' comments in the sense that there are other options, but there are some physicians that feel very strongly the opposite way, that there are certain texture implants or, say, an anatomic implant that is beneficial for their patient. That's certainly at the end of the day, we can debate it, but at the end of the day, that's a discussion between the doctor and their specific patient. And those are all textured implants, the anatomic ones. So, I mean, I think it's more complicated than just saying, these implants, let's take them off the market.
Right. I've always asked this, and I've brought this up before on No Spin Live, like if this was your family member, would you put a textured implant in a family member in 2019? And I'm like, my answer is no, because I think there's smooth options are more than adequate, and smooth options with some sort of mesh support I could pretty much get away with anything that you could have potentially use the textured implant for solve those problems. So, I agree with Rich. I do not like textured implants, and luckily I have not put that many in my whole career.
Giving patients context with this whole discussion is really important. If you just put some of this information in a vacuum, people do get the wrong idea. So how do you do that? What do you say to your patients?
I mean, I explained to them the different types of implants that the ALCL has been with this heavily textured implants, but I tell them there's components. There's a genetic predisposition. There's contamination, a bacterial growth that has to happen. So they have to have all these key factors for that to occur, and I explain to them that's relatively rare. I do not use textured implants. I've put in very few, and I try to explain to them the potential risk of ALCL and also breast implant illness, so they understand that these two possibilities exist, and they have to agree that going forward with, a smooth implant would not have these risks.
So the three of us, me, Rich, and Chris, really don't like textured implants. And I know Bill does, mostly smooth in his whole career. But do you have anybody who's coming to you in Dallas asking you for a textured implant? I mean, now in Florida, no one's asking for any textured implants at all, zero.
Yeah, the lion's share of my texture experience came with the anatomic implant studies, and I've had a low level of people coming, on an annual basis, wanting an anatomic implant for whatever reason, and that's really been my textured usage in the past, probably 5 years, because that's the studies ended at that point. So yeah, I really kind of lean more along you all's opinions on current, what I do with my current implant usage, but like I say, I do recognize that there are people that I respect highly that feel strongly about certain other types of implants or textured implants, and it's just it's a debatable thing, obviously, but I think you can't just say nobody can use textured implants.
In terms of the interaction with the patients, I think all you have to do is say the word textured implant and ALCL in the same sentence, and they're done.
Yeah.
They're done. They have no interest in textured implants. As soon as they hear that's correlation, whether it's true or not, or whether it's a lot or a little, they're done.
If you say almost zero risk and minor risk, everyone's going towards the zero risk. I've not had one person in years asking for a textured implant. Ever since this ALCL stuff came out, I mean, no one's ever asked for it. It's not even part of the discussion. I tell them, you're getting a smooth silicone implant, period. You want saline, I do 1 or 2 of those a year. But you're getting a smooth silicone implant, and we go into sizes and level of cohesiveness and things like that. That was today's discussion.
Yeah, that's my approach for sure in augmentation mastopexy. I do, but then you have the whole this. In Australia, actually, one of the biggest hot buttons has been the breast reconstruction patients, because they've talked about taking textured expanders off, which there are some smooth expanders now, but certainly the lion's share of experience has been with textured expanders. They're temporary devices. So there's a lot. I think there's more than, it's not a black and white answer. And I think the other thing is that texture. Look, I mean, we already know a lot about this disease. We know about how to stratify risk. As Christine mentioned, the more macro texture, the higher texture implants have a far higher rate because there's more surface area. So for example, BioCell has about 1 in 3,000 chance for ALCL, but if you look at other textures like Siltex, it's like 1 in 86,000. Right now, I think the Sientra texture in the United States is about 1 in 100,000. I mean, that's pretty low risk. Your chance of being hit and killed by lightning is 1 in 85,000. So I mean, all right, let's talk about Instagram blocking weight loss ads to users under 18. Christine, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think they're going to have trouble doing that because a lot of kids under 18 are using Instagram, and they are constantly doing selfies and looking at themselves and maybe not feeling good about themselves and seeking ways to feel better, whether it's with weight loss, whether it's finding out about cosmetic procedures. It's going to be difficult what they're doing, and I'm not sure that their way of regulating it is right. Why should they be able to determine what content people are looking at? I think it's difficult to have it go through. Yes, they're young, but can they control what these kids are looking at?
Rich, what do you think?
I think it was heavy-handed. I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea, but it was kind of heavy-handed, and I agree with Christine. I don't think it's going to be enforceable. They will find a way around it, but it's a little bit of a slippery slope. If they block that, what's next?
Jason, I mean, you're a big Instagram guy.
I don't know. I just look at cars and guns and watches. That's it. That's the only thing I look at Instagram. But you get these ads, but who cares? My thinking on this is, okay, they're gonna block it on Instagram, but they can go on Google and search out anything you possibly want. Somebody getting blown up, someone having sex with a donkey. There's so many things you can look at that's not blocked, and they're gonna stop the weight loss ad on Instagram. I'm like, okay, that's really gonna help the kids nowadays.
Yeah, well, they're blocking everything. You know, they're blocking plastic surgeons because people can't grow their Instagram account anymore. So pretty soon, Instagram's going to be passe in our specialty. But I'm just glad my daughter can't see weight loss ads. It's like there's enough stuff out there. So
Now they're considering any plastic surgery as a form of body shaming. And I think a little bit of what Instagram's doing is kind of going in that direction. So I do agree there has to be some regulation, but I think it is a slippery slope, like Rich said.
I don't want to have any more social media. I want to have like a double secret phone number for my office that you can only get if you know 3 people that have had surgery, and that's it. Then you can give me the secret knock, and you can get in and have surgery. That's what I want.
that's a new one. I like that. Jason Posner is always on the cutting edge. That's good stuff, guys. All right, if you want to see more of that in this, you can see it on theplasticsurgerychannel.com.